In this article, well, the title is COVID Vaccine Pass Slippery Slope. So let's watch out. What's this going to do? Beginning tomorrow, September 25th, everyone in the Netherlands above the age of 13 will need a digital COVID certificate. I think that's sort of like an internal passport, something.
And as we've pointed out on our show, you and Daniel so well, the COVID narrative is unsustainable. It can't be sustained long term. We're already seeing college football, 100,000 people in a stadium. Joe Biden! Joe Biden! There's no mad rush to go get these vaccines for the people that don't want them, regardless of these mandates. People are avoiding them. They're vaccinated or in the hospital being sick and dying of COVID. So the narrative has failed.
This is from the BBC. COVID-19 in Wales. A third of positive cases are unvaccinated.
So, that's horrible.
Yes, and when you first read it, you think, oh, those anti-vaxxers. And then you stop and you think, oh, yeah, when I was in 4th grade, I studied fractions. That means 2/3 were vaccinated. So if that's the case, if this is not some guy writing the headlines who's had a little bit too much to smoke.
Now, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden everything's going to turn back to reality. You know, the Soviet Union was finished a long time before it was actually finished.
Canada goes full Nuremberg Law, 1935. The unvaccinated cannot marry or hold most jobs. Now, of the problems they're running into with the vaccines. Well, the companies get exempt, you know, from any liability of the vaccines. No wonder there's problems and will be problems. So this exemption that they get is a big deal. The profits they make is a big deal. So it's the combination of big corporations and government that creates these problems, and that's what's going on now. During COVID, we had this lockdown, and we had this whole issue of wokeism, and which means and brings together corporations.
Let me explain to you how this works. You see, the corporations finance Team America, and then Team America goes out, and the corporations sit there in their corporation buildings, and see that they're all corporation-y, and they make money.
To do the dirty work for the government, and all of a sudden we have the executives of the biggest corporations enforcing the lockdown rules that the government put in.
Italy orders companies not to pay unvaccinated workers. If you show up to your job and you don't have your digital passport, not only do you not get a paycheck, you get a fine.
You know, saying one thing and lying, writing laws, and that's not for them. But that's what socialism is all about. They don't become socialists and authoritarians and run government. I mean, Nancy Pelosi doesn't suffer because she believes in a socialistic system. I mean, she does quite well. And even the Marxists, the so-called named Marxists that are in our Congress now, they live in $1 million houses. It's very lucrative for them. So it is pure hypocrisy that they go through, and the people should wake up to this, because this will motivate people to look for a change.
The first one, I was going to show it earlier, but the first one is, this is the CNN doctor. She is hysterical. She's the one who said if you don't get a vaccine, you cannot participate in public life, you cannot go outside. She is beyond insane. This lunatic, Dr. Wen, she was attacking at first the non-vax. Now she's saying the vaxxed are more dangerous. Even if you want to play by the rules are totally gone. Yeah, Dr. Lena Wen.
And those who are vaccinated, we now know, based on the CDC, they are now able, with the Delta variant, because they carry so much more virus, they could transmit it to their unvaccinated family members. And so I, for example, even though I'm fully vaccinated, my children are not, because they're too young to be vaccinated. So I need to be now careful for my children because of all the unvaccinated people around us. And
so what she's actually saying is that you're more dangerous if you're vaccinated, unless my hearing is gone. But she said the vaxxed carry so much more virus, the assumption being, than the non-vax. So she's saying that if you're vaccinated, you're actually more dangerous to people. That wasn't supposed to happen, was it?
And they're going to continue with their argument that is falling flat, more so now than before, and that is follow the science. Well, it's getting to be a joke, you know, on what they do. The science says if a person is capable outside the establishment to buy medicine that is very cheap and it works better than all the vaccines that have been passed out, ban those. That's what we have to do. And then if they have something that has been not fully tested, that has been brought about because they've had by the drug companies because they didn't have a liability responsibility, and enforce those upon the people and punish people who won't take the vaccines because they're getting skeptical.
It's always trust the science. We're following only the science. Well, we know that's bunk. We know that Walensky and the CDC are extremely political organizations. So when she got her panel together, remember the FDA already had a panel last week, and they recommended no boosters for people except for those over 65 and those that have critical problems with their immune systems. So the CDC's own board met, and they decided to follow the FDA essentially and say we don't need to go ahead and tell people to take booster shots. Well, Walensky didn't like that at all, and I'm sure her puppet masters in Big Pharma didn't like it either. And so she said, no, I'm not going to listen to that science. That's not the right kind of science. I'm going to recommend instead that people have them who are in high-risk jobs. Unbelievable. After 18 months of demanding that everyone follow the science and scorning any questioning, Biden's CDC director ignores, overrules, the overwhelming recommendation of her scientists about the Pfizer booster to align with what Biden wanted. So Biden already announced before the panels even met that we want to have boosters. Everyone get your booster. Line up. Let's do it. And then the panels met and said, no, that's probably not a good idea. We don't need it. And so Walensky overruled all that and said, no, let's just do what Biden wants. Let's go get your boosters.
It's almost like, I mentioned in my opening that there were 2 FDA doctors that quit. And I want to just read one sentence that described a little bit of their frustration. Those 2 officials, Marion Gruber and Phil Krause, later wrote an article in a medical journal asserting that there's no evidence the general population should get boosters. And you indicated that these probably were real doctors.
Yeah.
You know? And the FDA separately signaled boosters may not be needed. The proof and the science here, it's not even a serious science debate. It certainly isn't a serious political debate on who has the authority to make people safe from infections. So that's where they are, but they're still doing it, and hopefully more people will wake up and recognize that they don't even know what they're doing, and information changes every day.
It's sad because the left used to be with us on this whole crony capitalism thing, and that's clearly what's happening here. Crony capitalism. We've lost the left for political reasons. There are some good progressives like Glenn Greenwald, who we just put up.
You know what? If I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony. I'd be fine with that.